Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in the Designing Futures interview series. This series is about empowering the next gen architects through innovative architecture and urban design. My name is architect Christine Villaroman from the United Architects of the Philippines Singapore chapter. This series is in preparation for the World Architecture Day event that will happen on the 19th of October 2024. We will be interviewing trailblazers, leaders, and even our young architects in the field of architecture and urban design. So our guest today is architect Audrey Lopez. She is a senior urban designer at MGS Architects. She is based in Melbourne, Australia. She was a committee member of Urban Design Forum Australia, and she's also a sessional tutor in the master's program in the University of Melbourne. And also at the Urban Design, she is part of the Urban Design Advisory Board at the University of Melbourne. Thank you, Architect Audrey, for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, it is always exciting to hear insights from different perspectives. And of course, from initially we had an interview with architect Paulo Alcanzaren, very seasoned. Now we're going to be interviewing you, one of the young architects, right? How old are you, Audrey? And then how long have you been in Australia?
I'm just 31 years old.
Young architect. Yeah,
I've been living here in Australia since 2018, so more than 6 years now.
Yeah. And you took up your architecture in, did you take up urban design or how did you go about it?
So I did my architecture degree at University of Santo Tomas. I finished up in 2014. Tapos I worked for a few years at WTA Architecture and Design Studio before moving to Melbourne to study Masters of Urban Design.
Nice. Okay, but thank you for your time, and we would love to hear from you. Of course, there are different perspectives, different experiences that we have. Us, we're mostly here based in Singapore, and it's good that you've also worked in the Philippines, right? And then and of course migrating to Australia. So we have a few questions we would like to ask. One is Melbourne is known for really good in urban design with its open parks, and it's very one of the most livable cities in the world. So one thing we want to ask is what are the most relevant and important trends in urban design right now, especially in Australia?
Thank you. As you said, Melbourne is a livable, one of the most livable cities, but it's not without its challenges. And so one of the most important trends or issues that we have to deal lately is, we all know, is climate emergency and biodiversity loss. It's one of the bigger issues. And so the question is, how do we deal with these issues while still providing places and spaces for people and for the non-human habitants of our cities? We've overbuilt our cities, and there's no more space for nature to grow, for water to flow, and so resulting to a lot of the issues that we face even here in Australia, those 1 in 100-year flooding or even extended droughts. And so the biggest challenge right now is how do we make our cities flood resilient, disaster resilient? So how do we do that in urban design? We look at solutions such as water sensitive urban design, so encouraging absorbing stormwater flows in our public spaces. Another solution that strategy that we also look at here is revegetation. So using again yung natural local planting knowledges natin to really ensure that we're responding to the context, right, by creating this natural vegetation and by even biodiversity corridors. So how do we bring those back in our cities? So yeah, there are a lot of other things that we could do even now. So city na it's already fully built up. How do we introduce more greening? whether it's through rooftop gardens, so that continuous rooftop gardens, so that it creates like a corridor for the birds. Parang ganung klaseng solutions that seems very simple, but they're actually very hard to implement, considering that we've, as I mentioned, we've built up our cities already too much.
Oh, those are very interesting suggestions. So for example, let's do a hypothetical scenario. You move back to the Philippines, and knowing what you know now, like knowing what works and knowing the constraints of what we have, what would you suggest that we, as like you guys as the young architects, could do to make that impact in terms of urban design?
I think because I don't want to impose myself then in even in my own country, as someone who hasn't been there, I think the first thing is really tapping into local knowledge. And from tapping into local knowledge, parang how can I bring those knowledges that I know about how should we design our streets? Like often we just keep on building on top of each of our streets, like concrete over concrete. And so I mentioned earlier water sensitive urban design. So are we like, how do we make our cities more permeable, and so that hindi mag-overflow or hindi ma-overload yung ating current system, like infrastructure, drainage system. Obviously there are all these other issues that tie in with this one solution that we need to solve as well, like our infrastructure in itself needs to be fixed first. But I guess bringing those ideas in as well, while also ensuring that we're tapping into those local knowledge na mas alam kung paano gawin to, or gaano kadalas bahain yung area na to, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So what do you think will be like low-hanging fruits or easy things that can be suggested to, for example, the government or maybe to communities that can easily be implemented? Not easy, it's not as easy as we think it is, but something that could make a difference already. We know like change all the drainage will take, like it's almost impossible. Not impossible, but it is very difficult because it takes that a lot of that change in a governmental point of view. But what do you think when you go to communities, or what do you think we can do, like knowing what you know now?
It's really hard to answer a question. Low-hanging fruit might not be a low-hanging fruit for others, but I think like what you said,
in an idealistic point of view,
like what you said, going to the communities part is important. So I guess we could start with like, how can we empower then our community to be able to make their their own street or neighborhood better. Like we often think na parang we have to rely just on the government to do and fix what's the problem in our streets, but we can also maybe whether it's through the government, give those tools for the city to make their own initiative, and like how to introduce more greening, planting more trees in their own streets, and so on and so forth. So I think giving the tool also to the community is one step that we can say like, itong solution na to is something that is accessible for everyone.
And it's I think also engaging NGOs, engaging maybe corporations in corporate social responsibilities along with the government. That would be interesting. How do you guys do it in Melbourne? Like, how do you guys work closely with communities and governmental bodies? And how do you think that can be applied in the Philippines?
So with the kind of work I'm doing, a lot of times we work with local councils. And so working with local councils in making their structure plans or neighborhood plans. So these kind of plans help the city in terms of planning where they should improve connections or pedestrian connectivity, or make better streets, or where they should introduce higher density development, or where they could increase greening and introduce new parks within their jurisdiction. And so one of the key things that we do and with the council at the start is engagement. So we engage with the community from the beginning. We ask them first what are the issues or the challenges that they think their neighborhood is facing, and listening and hearing from them firsthand, because it's important that when you're dealing with the neighborhood, you also understand the context. It's not just simply desktop analysis na where the streets are, the buildings, or like where's the flood area. But beyond that is understanding also what are the current needs and what could be the future needs of the people.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Not sure if we're doing that in the Philippines, but that would be a very good way, to solve our problems, really going deep down and interviewing communities, as you have said. That's a very nice insight. And of course, working with the government and try to identify the ones that are achievable, maybe like from a young architect's point of view. And how do you find it? So you were an architect and then took up masters in urban design. So where are you practicing more? Is it in architecture or in urban design?
I'm practicing mostly in urban design. I think because I've worked in urban design in the context of architecture practice, we can get into a level of detail na a bit closer to architecture when it comes to like defining what are the uses or programs that each building can do, or where the entries, or like how should the facade or interfaces should be treated. So there is that level of detail. I think it kind of helps a lot as an urban designer when you're thinking at the broader, bigger scale, macro scale, because we often work in the scale of a city or even a campus. And so how do we it does help in terms of understanding how do we deal at the broader scale while also understanding how it works at a smaller scale. So urban design, but like very much helped by my architecture background.
Okay. And so like the ones who will be watching this are architects who may also want to go into urban design, right? Like what do you think about the difference, of both? And then how would you encourage people, like what would you say to them if they are looking into that possibility, maybe taking up masters in urban design or going deeper, like deep diving into that field?
Okay. In the simplest way I could define it is parang architecture is the building, anything inside the building, and urban design is anything outside that building. So and so that includes your streets, your parks, your city itself. So everything outside that building is, or dealing with multiple buildings, is part of urban design. And so I think one of the things that I really if you're interested to pursuing this field, I think even as an architect right now, thinking that urban design is everywhere, thinking and designing more consciously, that your building or the place that you're making is part of a broader ecosystem, which is the city. So if you start thinking about that way, you start to be more conscious and more contextual then when it comes to the buildings that you design. And I think what's very important then when you're working in urban design is that you're not working for yourself or for someone, but you're working for the public interest. So whether you're dealing with government, with private entity, like you still need to always have that mindset na at the back of your head, what you need to do needs to be good in overall for the public, for the common good. So I think if nandyan na yung feeling na yan, I think you're one step closer to, you might as well start working on things that are more urban designs. Because I think if those are the kind of things that you care, you can go either take up, a master's degree, or I think even start working on practices that deal more with public spaces. I think just to broaden then your understanding and experience about how to deal with projects such as that are bigger scale than what we're usually familiar of when we're working in architecture, and even like going over and looking online then for like references, or even or online classes if that would help. But yeah, I think if that's what you care about, you should go for it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Thank you. Maybe like one last question is like, you're young, like you have your career ahead of you. You're in Melbourne as a Filipino architect. What do you think young architects such as yourself can do to make a difference? Not just maybe in where you are, but even in the Philippines itself as a whole.
I think one thing, of course, that I've learned and still learning is that the difference I can make right now is still small, because I don't have it. I'm not yet in the position where I can make bigger decisions that would impact a city. But I think understanding that these small things that you could do could create a bigger impact, that it could resonate to something bigger. So I think I want to say na. I want to encourage everyone that working closely first, like even with your community, with start small, like helping your street, like making your street better, or helping your barangay make better. I think starting small in those and understanding, especially as someone who lives in those places, you would have that lived experience. And so I think knowing that you can make those small changes is already something satisfactory. And I think if you keep on doing that and basically scale that up, then the more you grow in the next few years, I think that's how you make the bigger impact in the end.
Nice. Very wise words, Architect Audrey. Like there's no such thing as a small thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and at the end, like if all of us, like as Filipinos, whether in Singapore, in Melbourne, or in the Philippines, you make that small, like small difference, then incrementally, and then later on it becomes exponential.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you, Audrey, for Architect Audrey, for your insights and for your time, and all the best for you. And we know that this interview will inspire a lot of our young architects moving forward.
Thank you so much, UAP Singapore chapter. Thank you for the invitation, and I hope I've inspired a lot of people today. Thank you.
You did. Thank you so much.